I'd like to welcome Jennifer Surratt. Jennifer is the Executive Director of Nagdawaban Family Crisis Shelter.
The Nimki Nabkawagan Family Crisis Shelter.
Thank you, Jennifer. I apologize for that. So Jennifer, talk to me about the importance and the significance of today's event.
So today is February 14th, and February 14th has been the day that has been known across the country to organize events like this for missing and murdered Indigenous women. It originated in Vancouver many years ago and has been recognized across the country. Well, in Sault Ste. Marie, for the past 11 years, this event has been held. Over the last few years, we've seen quite a dramatic increase in the collaborative efforts with agencies and organizations and First Nations within this area, within the Sault Ste. Marie area. Today was indicative of that because we had representation from 4 different First Nations, and when I talk representation, I mean their chiefs and their councils, some of their council members, which was fantastic to see, as well as local representation from the city here too.
Yes, and I noticed there's a large turnout of people here today.
Yes.
Are you pleased with the turnout?
Oh, definitely. I think it shows that people can come together for a very worthy cause and to honor those women. I think our voices need to be heard, and I think that the people here today have done a phenomenal job of expressing that the issue, the need for change, the need to address some of those systemic barriers that our people face, as well as within just the local community, the struggles that our women have seen over the years and the resilience that our women have possessed.
All right, well, thank you, Jennifer.
I'd like to also say one more thing, I guess, when today's event was not only for our women and our girls, but also our men and boys as well. Okay. There have been, recent cases within Ontario and other provinces with verdicts that were not fair and were troublesome to a lot of people. And I think the people are all hurting. So I think today's participation showed that people are ready to make a difference and want a difference.
Right. And this is what reconciliation looks like today's events, and more going forward. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Jennifer. Miigwech.
That was a good one.
Hi.
Well, bye.
My name is Vivian Jimenez Estrada. I am a Mayan woman from Guatemala, Ishim Uleo, the land of corn. I bring greetings to this land and I say thank you, miigwech, to the elders, to the people present, to the ancestors who have gone before us, to the spirits of those helpers, the spirits of the knowledge keepers that maintain the community here and beyond. I teach sociology at Algoma University, and the inspiration that I get from my students, from the leadership at Algoma, but also from the little people, our children, our youth, very powerful, powerful words. You all inspire me to do better at what I do each and every day. And that is opening up spaces so we can talk about what is racism, what is the impact. It's not in your head, it's not in my head. It is a reality, and yet everybody has thrived and survived. Why? Because there is hope. There are lights out there, floating spirits that keep everybody inspired to do better each and every single day. I'm also here to tell you that the issue of missing and murdered Aboriginal women, Indigenous women, is also rampant across the Americas. It's an issue that we need to look at locally, but also transnationally. It's an issue we need to take a look deeper into, each and every one of you, to do an act of kindness. Because people who have gone missing, people who deserve justice and never get it, are looking down upon us. Each day is a new day, and each day we have the chance to become those perfect beings that we are meant to be. So miigwech, kolaval, maltush.
In the Commons. And today, we still march. And we will keep marching until justice is sought for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, children, and peoples. I stand here with you all, and I agreed to speak because I guess I have something to say. In fact, I've been speaking for over a decade about the same things. Just like we continue to gather here today, we need to address generational and relative poverty, and we need to invest in our youth. Hello, my name is Cecilia Trahan, and I am the daughter of a prostitute and an alcoholic. In 2015, I launched a nationwide campaign to find my mother, who then was missing for 14 years. My mother went missing when I was only 9 years old. Her life was full of poverty, addiction, and abuse. By the time my mother was 12 years old, she had already been drugged, raped, and trafficked. My mother had 3 children, none of which she was able to raise. My mother was abused by every man that she ever trusted. But you know what? My mother is alive and well. There's hope. And justice is possible, but only when the right actions are taken. We need to take action. And this is why we march. Don't stop marching until justice for missing Indigenous peoples rings across the nation. Turtle Island. So friends, it's time to take the blinders off and really look at what's happening in our community, behind closed doors and under your rugs. It's been a sad era here in Sault Ste. Marie, having to admit that we lack the infrastructure to help our people. But there's still hope. Woo! Hope to reduce generation after generation of domestic violence, abuse, and poverty. Hope to increase social inclusion, education, mental wellness, and our community's capacity to help each other. Right now, right here, it's about breaking the cycle. prioritizing our families, creating safe, accessible environments, and consistent, I hear you, and resilient community investment. After all, it is not about this courthouse. It's not about the court system. It's not about the government, and it's not about the mayor. It's about how we treat each other as people, as human beings. So thank you for coming today here with your bodies and being decent human beings. So, wherever my accomplices, yeah. Together, we march for Indigenous women who have gone missing and are murdered. We march for those who have lost their way and for hope for those who may be found. We want justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Justice.
We want
Thank you very much.
Bonjour. Washe keke tunakwe dishkas. Gagons to them. Ginab jing dunjaba. It's truly an honor to be here with you all. This is my first time joining this beautiful circle, and I decided to come out and feature the Thunderbird woman today, mainly because of the heart in the middle. And what the late Art Solomon had to say about the grandmothers. He said that the grandmothers are the strength of our communities. And without the grandmothers, we are weak. And during that ceremony, we learned about all the roles and responsibilities of what a grandmother is. And I'm really honored to have been going through that ceremony. And it's so, so important that our grandmothers take a stand. And today I'm going to be calling out the grandmothers that we have to come forward and, you know, like our grandmothers can put you through that ceremony. When we talk about the missing and murdered, we also look at the women on the streets that are still here, but they're missing in spirit. They need that help from the grandmothers. They're working in this human trafficking. You know, I hear a lot of sad stories. I have a site set up on Facebook. It's called Nokomis Grandmothers. And, you know, I just put on a lot of sad stories up there. But, you know, we don't have to end this with sad stories. We have our own stories. And we're resilient. We're survivors. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I just want to share that with you and to honor all those women. Yous are all beautiful. Nishnawbe Kwe. Ho!
Obadro nang ishkunagan nin donje. Ojibwe Anishinaabe Kwe Minuwa. Bejik Medewiani Kwe and Dao. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm really, really honored and I'm humbled to be here on behalf of the Indian Friendship Center here in Sault Ste. Marie, representing the urban Indigenous people. Just a little bit of a stat for people if you don't realize, but the Indigenous population in Sault Ste. Marie is at least 10%. And I'm talking about 8 years ago, it was 10%. I do believe that is a little bit higher. So that means that with every 10 Sault Ste. Marie citizens, you have an Indigenous person standing there with you. So that's big, that's high for Sault Ste. Marie. And we see every day in our work at the Friendship Center the addictions. We do have a person, a woman that came from Thunder Bay to Sault Ste. Marie, and she was captured and put on a cargo in Thunder Bay along with other Indigenous women, and she got away and she's here in Sault Ste. Marie. But I said that because I would like everybody to know that these stats, these statistics are true with our Indigenous people. We see that every day in the work that we do. With over 5,000 missing and murdered Indigenous people, and I use the word people because as a blanketed inclusion word, I want to not to forget our men, our youth, our Métis people, and our elders across Canada. We remember Renelle Harper, who was brutally attacked and beaten and then thrown into a frigid river to die. We remember Tina Fontaine, whose body was pulled from the Red River in Winnipeg, and the thousands of others who have not come home to family. We know that the mental health of these families have no choice but to endure the everyday trauma of the loss of their loved ones, and that totally changes a person for the rest of their lives. Those families will never forget their loved ones, but are afraid that Canada will. And 70% of these deaths occur off reserve. Just another statistic. But it is my hope and it is my prayer that we move forward with the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm glad that Ross Romano is here present today. With our MP, our MPP, our Sioux Police. I've seen Troy Miller in the audience. I can't see him now, but hi, Troy. I'm really happy that they're here. The OPP and the judicial system, and we can strategize on focusing local planning in terms of what can be done. Where can we start with this haunting national disgrace? And that's exactly what it is, because it is a disgrace on Canada's part. How can we propel forward with each other to come to an accord that will be beneficial to all people, to all of us? Together we need to begin to reconceptualize Indigenous people and valuing us as a society when we see this level of loss of lives. So with that, I'm going to say Chimigwech to our working task force, our local task force, and all the agencies who have come together to make this day of awareness, wakefulness, and cognizance a reality. I look forward to much community work with our police, with our municipality, with our judicial people. So with that, I say Chimigwech Gibijaying Minoa Migwech Bizendawieg. Now.
And
Give me Gwetch from Missinaba Cree First Nation being a part of this. I think the biggest one for me of being a part of this is it's been a long time we've been trying to get these inquiries going, but right now I think the biggest problem is the resources of talking to frontline workers and so on that have these solutions. The women have these solutions, and we need to support them in any way we can. We're living in a society, not just Indigenous women, non-Indigenous women too. Well before they ever settled here, they have already were put in a spot where they were not equal. And that's got to change. We don't want to go down that way. That's not our way. So these are the things that I've seen over the years. But for me to tell you what the solution is for the women, I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is how a solution for men is to support those women. For those leaders to go out and get those dollars, to help those frontline workers, policing, all those things. We've all been impacted. I've been at this for 20 years. And I still got some material stuff that says I'm more than a woman, the way they should be. Anyone that works, you know, the women will say that they don't get paid as much as the men. They do the same job. I would argue probably more work than some of the men, and yet it still falls on the woman's back today. So as men, we need to really teach those children. Start from there. No violence in the home. Teach those boys how to treat those women. I'm 20 years and I still haven't entirely figured out how to treat women. And that's the honest to God truth. And I'm still learning, and my vigilance and my perseverance will come from my ancestors and eventually get to that point. So miigwech for everybody, and maybe next year we'll fill up this whole courthouse. Let's do that. Miigwech.
I'd like to introduce Chief Dean Sayers.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to see so many people here, so many of our Indigenous
with some more Anishinaabe, Quail, and how is the system going to be responsive? I'm really finding it difficult to be optimistic, but I was telling some people at the powwow the other day about what we're known for as Anishinaabe people. We are a sharing people, and sometimes to our own detriment. And when the visitors to our lands arrived here, we opened up our hearts. And what the elders would tell me when we say Bindigan and we invite them into our homes, and someone would knock at our door when we were kids and we'd say Bindigan, and they'd come in and have a cup of tea. It was more than just opening the door. We were opening up our world. We were opening up our hearts. We were opening up our entire being to whoever was coming to have a cup of tea with us. And that's the way we opened our door to the people from around the world. We opened the door and we trusted, and we were going to share. And when we shared, we said we were going to expect the same quality of life that we've always enjoyed, and we'd share that with the visitors here and vice versa. It didn't quite work out that way, but we're not letting the Crown forget. And when the chiefs talk, we remember the speeches of the old leaders, and we remember what the Crown promised us. And we shouldn't be living in this type of a situation today in the face of colonization. We have a lot of work to do. We all have to roll up our sleeves. And I'm going to be there as well to help with the work that needs to happen so that we can all enjoy that same quality of life. When I look at institutionalization and its impact on our people, that's not the way it was supposed to evolve. Canada does not have jurisdiction over justice. We have that reserved jurisdiction. We need to start to spread our wings, and we need to take ownership of our own destiny, and we need to reclaim justice systems. We have that power. We have that same authority that it's unresolved, and it's unrestricted, and it's never been compromised in a treaty to manage our own education systems. We have the same authority to manage our own mining and resource systems. We have never extinguished our rights to do those things. We are the people that are going to find those being revived. We cannot continue to believe that the Crown is going to be providing us everything that we expect. We have to take back what's legally ours that has been reserved for us by our ancestors. This plight of our missing and murdered Indigenous women men, boys, children, people all around needs to be eradicated. The system that's in place right now is a crown system. It's not our system. We're going to make lemonade out of that lemon. If we can't make lemonade out of that lemon, we will find justice ourselves, and our people right here will find that justice. We'll create that justice for our future. So I encourage you to continue to stand up, to be visible, to be vocal, to contact your MPPs, talk to your MPs. Make sure that these Crown governments, right now, we have a really workable government. Their mandates are set to expire. We need to get them to make credible, action-based decisions that will have the true effect that we want around the reconciliation commitments that they've made. There's a lot of work that's been done. Let's make sure that they follow through on all of those 94 recommendations in the TRC, the Royal Proclamation, the Royal Commission on Aboriginal Peoples, the Justice Linden's recommendations in the Ipperwash Inquiry, where the Crown had ordered the killing of Dudley George at Kettle Point, Stony Point. We're not forgetting those things. It's got to get better soon. And these are the types of events that are going to get us there. So we pray for those families that are having a hard time to see the sunshine today because they have missing loved ones. And we'll put our same down again, as we do every day for our people. So commendations to the Botswana Yimpi Namquagan Family Crisis Shelter and all of the organizers here for putting together this incredible gathering. And we'll see you again somewhere else on the trail, okay? Miigwech.
Miigwech. My name is Chief Elaine Johnson from Serpent River First Nation. My spirit name is Flower Woman. I give you greetings on behalf of my people in Serpent River First Nation. Acknowledge the elders, the youth, the drum, and also acknowledge that we're on the territory of Mawatting and Garden River, and that we're on the 1850 Robinson-Huron Treaty area. I also want to acknowledge the women, the girls, the families, the youth, because you're very important. And I need to say this because when you look at the stats that we do know, and we don't know a lot, is that there's a lot of our women, girls, and also boys and men that are missing or murdered. And we need to acknowledge that. And we also know about this whole issue of Colton Bushy, you know, in regards to how our people are treated, and we need to acknowledge that. Majority of the missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, what I've been told, are mothers. And you know, and as a mother, we have to think about all of the children that have been impacted, because they have been hurt as well, and the families and the community itself that have been hurt. You look at our history, some of us, you know, we've been portrayed as Indian princesses, like Pocahontas. And then there's the other part where we've been betrayed as squaws, you know, sexual deviants. I've been called a squaw in my lifetime many times. And I'm here to tell you that I'm not a squaw. I'm a strong Anishinaabe woman. And I think that we have to be proud of who we are. We are strong Anishinaabe women, strong people of the Anishinaabe people. You know, we have gone through a lot in our history. A lot of our people are hurting of 500 years of stuff that have happened to us over 500 years. But I'm here to tell you, no more. No more. And our young people who I don't know more have said that to us, no more. We will fight for our people. We will fight for our women. We will fight for our children. And we will fight for our families and our community. And so I acknowledge all of you here that are here part of that fight to say no more. We want answers. We want support. We want to end the violence. We want to look at the issues of police services, the justice system, human trafficking, the drugs and alcohol, and the taking away of our children in the child welfare systems. So no more, and I think that's what we're here to say, is that we acknowledge the pain and suffering of our missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and also our boys and men. So we say miigwech to you for being here and for being that strong voice. Miigwech.
Just to add with Elaine talking about our justice system and how ironic where we are. In this courtroom here, our young warrior, young Jesse, the justice system, Jesse Roach failed him. So, you know, I just wanted to say that. It's hard to keep the emotions intact, but I just wanted to acknowledge that our system, the systemic system, an injustice system has failed us. So we need to stay strong and stay together and fight. Miigwech Elaine. Oh. It's hard, it's the ones that suffer, that grieve, that miss, that ache for those loved ones that have gone on in tragic ways. So we say those prayers, we ask for those prayers, a little bit of help for them and help those families. And we say miigwech to those that have come. I want to acknowledge Chief Elaine, who's here. You know, we have our MPP Ross. Ross has always showed up here. Each and every one of you, all those that are here, that have come today. It's a good day to be in Anishinaabe. I want to acknowledge our elders, our sacred items that are here, our spirit helpers, to the organizers. Job well done. Let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy this beautiful day, and as we come together, just to remember. So, miigwech to you. Here you go, Julie.
In Sault Ste. Marie, the March for Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women has been held annually in the front of this courthouse to symbolize the need for justice for our women. Indigenous women in Canada experience violence every day through racism and sexism. The severity of violence differs between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal women. Aboriginal women more likely to receive injury in domestic violence. 59% of Aboriginal women compared to the 41% of non-Aboriginal. We are more likely to indicate that they are feared for their lives as a result of spousal violence.
According to the RCMP's 2015 updated report,
Missing and Murdered Aboriginal Women, a National Operational Review. 1,017 Indigenous women have been murdered over the past 30 years. There are 174 Indigenous women who were missing, and 111 of those cases were under suspicious circumstances and yet remain to be solved. Statistics Canada reports rates of violence against Indigenous women is 3 times higher than for non-Indigenous women and 7 times higher for homicide rates. At this time, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for all those women, girls, men and boys too, who have went missing or who have been murdered. Please join me in a silent prayer in honor of them.
further down Queen Street at the Shingwalk Residential School, a lot of these issues began and bring us to where we are. And I think it's extremely important for all of our people that make up this country to really examine and closely look at what has brought us to this point and how we can be better. Not long ago, as a result of the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, our country, federal government, looked at the Truth and Reconciliation process. And it was finally said, after centuries, that what occurred through the residential school system was cultural genocide. It took that long for that acknowledgement to have been made. Truth and reconciliation are very powerful words, but right now they're words. My question is, how do we get there? What does reconciliation look like? Looks something like this. This is how we start to get there. This gathering of people looking at how we rectify the wrongs of the past, how we unite in order to resolve what has been a systemic, prejudicial, discriminatory process towards Indigenous people. I believe we will get there. There's a large mountain to climb, but you can't get to the top of the mountain if you don't start climbing one step at a time. And every process, a gathering like this, is a part of that journey. So I want to say that I am committed to doing everything I can to try to help us get there. And it's not just speaking words, it's taking actions. It's trying to do everything we can to unite, recognize the mistakes of the past, and recognize how we can move forward and actually moving in that direction. But above all else, we're here today to honor and to remember all of those missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I would like to ask that we take a moment, bow our heads in silence, and pray in whatever fashion you so choose, to really remember and think about what happened to those women, to think about their families that they've left behind, all the people that they loved and that loved them and that missed them and that wish they were here, and really think about how we can move forward and in honoring them, never forget who they are and what they left behind. And just before I get there, I also really want to say thank you to Mr. Hand for sharing your particular story and the courage you displayed to do that. I think we see a future leader in you. So at this time, I'm just going to ask that we just take a quick moment of silence and remember.